Hello lovely people, my name is Emma and today I'm doing a book recommendations video for non-fiction books about science, specifically mainly biology. I'm just putting that caveat in there now because I've just scanned the stack and realised I got nothing on chemistry and physics for you in here. So I'm sorry about that if you were here for those, not me, not my channel, find somebody else. So I've been meaning to do this video for a while. I've been talking about it in a few of my videos recently. So I just have brought together a stack of some really great biology books that I think people should read. So let's jump in. The first one I'm going to talk about is actually not strictly just biology, but has enough in it that it should be included, and is the most kind of general science book I have on this list, and that is Elephants on Acid by Alex Boyes. This book has been out for a while and it was very popular when it came out, and basically it is a collection of tales of the crazy, nutty, wacky things that scientists have done in the name of science. This book is fantastic. I read it literally a decade ago now and I still can remember huge chunks of it, and I still bring it up all the time in like random conversations. It's one of these amazing books that's just going to give you a bunch of factoids that are fantastic to throw at people at random moments. Things include stuff like scientists building a small cockroach stadium to race cockroaches to see if spectator effect helped or hindered athletes. It has a whole bunch of stuff about wine tasting and how legit or not it is. Also about Pepsi and Coke and which one tastes better in blind taste tests. It's got a whole bunch of stuff to do with they genuinely gave an elephant LSD, didn't go well. There's a guy who could have almost continuous multiple orgasms, and they tested that and basically challenged him to see how long he could go for. There's just a whole bunch of stuff out there. Like, it's wacky and crazy and zany, and these are all experiments that have got funding in the past, and it's fantastic. Since writing this, Alex Boyes has gone on to write a few other ones, including stories of all the horrific things that scientists have done to themselves in the name of science, mainly speaking historically before decent funding and ethical boards got involved. And I think he has one other one out there. His writing style is real natural and easy. Everything is well referenced, so if you are really interested in something you can go and find out more about it, and it's just generally very cool. Another book that I read quite a while ago and I've never heard anybody else talk about is The Frog That Croaked Blue, Synesthesia and the Mixing of the Senses. So this is a very short book. It's by Jamie Ward, and it's like a scientific exploration of synesthesia or synesthesia, depending on who you ask. This is where the senses get mixed up, and when people hear music they see colours, or when they say words they have various tastes or smells, and it's basically where things get kind of a little bit scrambled. Some people have it to a very lesser degree. If you've ever got the sense that maybe like maths is a red subject and English is a blue subject or not, you might have it to a certain degree, but some people have it in a very extreme way and they get tested over and over again and their answers are very consistent. And this is just looking at some of the science behind it and the different examples of it. It is very short and very accessible, and it's just a cool, a lovely little science book about a really bizarre feature of the human brain and how it can get its wires crossed. Very cool. Talking still about features of the human brain, an amazing book but much bigger than the last one is Neurotribes, The Legacy of Autism and How to Think Smarter About People Who Think Differently by Steve Silberman. This is a beast of a book looking at the history of autism, kind of historically, and then also like its different diagnoses, its connections with the past, some of the controversies surrounding like vaccinations and the various different ways it's been treated and all sorts of things like that. It's a absolutely fantastic book, very intense, quite long as you can see, so it is a bit of a commitment, but I do think each chapter can be taken separately if there are just bits that you do want to dip in and out of. But also it's an amazing read and it's a fascinating look at people who just think differently, and that's completely fine. Definitely would recommend. So cool. Sticking with the human brain, we have Never Enough, The Neuroscience and Experience of Addiction by Judith Grisel. This has been mentioned a few times very recently on my channel because I did just finish reading it last month. It is about, as the title suggests, the neuroscience and experience of addiction. It's about how addiction and various addictive substances affect the human brain, what is happening there on a chemical level, but also Judith Grisel experienced addiction herself and has overcome it, and it's about her own personal experiences. So it's an amazing example of kind of own voices within science writing, which I think is fantastic. It's surprisingly accessible despite the fact that there is a lot of science in here, so please don't be scared off by that, and it is just very intense as a read and very interesting to see again, it's a world that I know nothing personally about. I have no connection with addiction in my past, with any of my family or my friends, and so it was just really eye-opening to read about something which I only ever see represented kind of in media or very negatively in the news. So yeah, would really heavily recommend. One that is less accessible for the science side of it, but is still definitely well worth the wade through it, is Mutants by Armand Marie Leroy. This is on the forms, varieties and errors of the human body, and this is literally just talking about the various different mutations that there have been in the past, and how they happen, and it obviously goes into things like freak shows and all sorts of stuff like that. It is quite dense as a read, and it does talk a lot about the like heavy science behind some of it, so there are some sections which might feel a little bit more textbooky than some of the other stuff on this list. However, I do think it was a really interesting and fascinating read. Again, it's one that I read a while ago but still comes back to me quite often and has survived several like house moves and cullings of books because it's just so cool and interesting. It's one that I do want to reread again at some point in my life because I think it's such a dense book that I would appreciate a second go round to get more out of it, but really fascinating. And then the last one I want to talk about is actually more an author rather than a specific book, and that is Mary Roach. Now, Mary Roach is fairly well known as a non-fiction writer. I've read 2 of her books. She has an amazing back catalogue, and she is really accessible, very funny, and has really lovely little footnotes and asides. Her books tend to focus on one particular topic and then bounce around a few different ways of kind of understanding it. So for example, the 2 that I've read, we have Grunt, which is the science of keeping human beings alive at war. So this is rather than looking at various different ways of like killing the bad guy, for lack of a better word, it's about how to keep the good guys alive. So some of it includes things like shark repellents, and you know how many people do genuinely get eaten by sharks when planes go down or ships sink, submarine rescues, how does that happen, various reconstructive surgeries that are available out there including the advances in genital reconstructive surgery, all the different work that happens with crash test dummies and human cadavers about understanding the various like traumas that happen when you like drive over an IED or anything like that. Very cool and interesting. We also have Stiff, which is the curious lives of human cadavers, and it's all the various scientific things that happen with the human body after death. It includes things like historical examples of cannibalism, body farms, and the like scientific process of understanding how the body decomposes. It does include stuff about cadavers and crash test dummies, which some of that crosses over with Grunt, but obviously it's talking about it in more of a civilian context rather than a military one, and just generally very cool. So those are it. Those are some of my I wouldn't say favourite, but just some of the books that I've been reading semi-recently and have read historically about science, specifically biology. There are probably many more out there which are very cool and were definitely worth checking out, but these are the ones that immediately leapt off my shelves when scanning it to do this video. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you like this, maybe subscribe, hang out. I do a fair amount of non-fiction content, as you well know, because I've been doing tons recently for Non-Fiction November. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Have a wonderful reading week, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye!